In the immortal words of Ricky Bobby, Mama, I'm going fast. The Toronto Raptors have changed their play style, their draft philosophy, and in so many ways have done a complete 180 from what they were doing just 2 years ago. And I got to tell you, this is not something that could have been predicted 2 years ago. There's a lot of good young players on this team. There are a ton of variables that could go right and wrong. Today's episode will serve as not only a season preview, but also a bit of an optimistic note onto why you should be paying attention to the Toronto Raptors. We will also be covering in today's episode the 2021 draft class and how they basically just got a lot of extensions and one notable guy who didn't get extended, which was Davion Mitchell, and what that means for the Toronto Raptors guard going forward. And we will take a listen to what Darko Rajakovic had to say about the Raptors offense, the ways in which it runs. We'll look at some clips in terms of how quickly the Raptors are crossing over the half court mark. And what do I mean by the Raptors are total chaos? It's certainly meant in one of two ways. If you're a doomsday prognosticator that thinks this team is going to be awful, you probably think that means that they're going to be a train wreck. And if you think, like I do, that this team could surprise, I'm going to make a compelling case for that, like I've been doing for the last 6 months. And we're also going to talk about Jaylen Brown. We're going to talk about what Jaylen Brown did yesterday. It was pretty amazing how he clapped back at Stephen A. Smith. And we'll take a look at the role of the media going forward because this is a rebuilding team, whether you like it or not. And that means it's going to come with a lot of false starts. It's going to come with some hitches. It's going to require patience, basically. So, first of all, total chaos. What do I mean by total chaos? I mean the way that the Raptors play basketball, man. Now, you take a look up and down at this team. And first of all, hello to everybody. Please hit like, subscribe on your way in. A little discombobulated because I had this entire scripted intro planned out, and then I left the speaker on so I could now hear myself, and then I got all confused. But regather myself. We're going to have you covered every single day starting tomorrow. We are less than 30 hours away from the Toronto Raptors home opener against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Of course, it's going to come really fast. The Toronto Raptors have a brutal schedule to start. Darko Rajakovic, when asked about it yesterday, was kind of coy. I mean, obviously, he knows who they're playing, and he had no problem basically saying we don't care. And everyone has pretty much adopted that philosophy of we don't care who's ahead of us. We're focusing one game at a time, and that's nice. But it's going to come fast. And you face the Cleveland Cavaliers. And on Friday, you will face Joel Embiid and the Philadelphia 76ers. And I don't believe it's a back-to-back. So that means Joel Embiid will actually play. And, it may be one of the last times that we see Kyle Lowry in Toronto. A friend of ours has tickets to that game, selling them reasonably inexpensively, 100 levels, I think 108. If you are interested in that, get in touch with me via the email, and we'll hook you up. We'll see if we can broker a deal between you and this person who has 3 tickets. Yes, it's going to come fast. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about how the Toronto Raptors can leverage that advantage because, again, there is an element of surprise with this team. And I think that, to gather my thoughts for a second, I am somewhat surprised by some of the contracts that went off yesterday, right? Not to completely dance around this, and we'll get to the contracts when we get to it. But it makes me somewhat excited that the Raptors have their young core secured. Now, obviously, you're not going to pay Scottie Barnes any more than the max, so you didn't get any discounts there, nor should you have gotten a discount. RJ Barrett, who was allegedly considered a toxic asset, I'm going to make a case that he's not a toxic asset. And by today's standards, he's very fairly paid. Given the contracts we just saw yesterday, if you could say with a straight face that you would prefer to have Jaylen Green on your team than RJ Barrett, I don't know what to tell you. But Jaylen Green's going to get paid $35 million. And some of the deals that went off yesterday are a preview into the new NBA. And it really puts into context Immanuel Quickley's, $32.5 million flat deal that the Raptors secured. And even if you're still on the fence and saying that it is an overpay, I'll make a case that it's a little bit fairer when you put into context some of the contracts that were signed, which includes Jalen Suggs, which includes Jalen Johnson, a lot of these guys. I'll also make a case during this live that winning changes everything, changes perceptions, as evidenced by the fact that Aaron Gordon went from being a bust who couldn't carry anything on the Magic, and then suddenly he's now a player who makes over $30 million a year playing next to Nikola Jokic. A different context, right? If you put Jamal Murray right now on the Brooklyn Nets, would he be anything close to a max player? If you put Michael Porter Jr. in the place of Kyle Kuzma, how much better do they get? But Kyle Kuzma is a joke, and Michael Porter Jr. is a champion. Championships make players unreasonably expensive. There are other things that make players unreasonably expensive. High draft stock, like high draft positioning, makes players unreasonably expensive. And the Toronto Raptors had the option to give one of those high draft picks a contract extension yesterday, and they didn't. So we'll talk about that too. But what do I mean by chaos? Let's get to this. So what I mean by chaos is basically, let's take a look at just how the Toronto Raptors play basketball. One sec here. Pull this up. Oh man. Okay. Pull it up. I want you to take a look at how quickly there was a clip that I shared on Twitter just last night, which shows it was a play between Scottie Barnes and Grady Dick in which 2 dribbles got them up the court. Now take a look here at one sec here. Okay. So take a look. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I want you to take a look at how quickly the Raptors cross the half court mark. Just take a look. That's 22 seconds, and Scottie Barnes is right over that mark. And if you think this is just a one-time occurrence, this is pretty much what the Raptors are preaching. Now, again, Scottie gets the inbound at 24 seconds. How quickly is he going to get this up the court? One dribble, and the second dribble, and he's crossed the court. And it's 22 seconds. That's 2 seconds. 2 dribbles, 2 seconds, we're up the court. And look at the defense. Now, obviously, it's going to make a difference when that Davion Mitchell in the corner that Jaylen Brown is basically sleeping on, that's not a Davion Mitchell, that's an RJ Barrett. Or, that Jakob Poeltl that Al Horford is happy to let catch the ball right here. That's not always going to be Jakob Poeltl. Sometimes that's going to be a Jonathan Mobo going downhill. Sometimes that's going to be a Kelly Olynyk splashing above the break. And I think the Raptors found a lot of success doing this. Take another look. We are 24 seconds and 1 dribble. That's the first dribble he takes. And again, he crossed it at the 23-second mark. Take a look again at another possession. If you think I'm just showing you the same possession over and over, these are all different possessions. Once again, 23 seconds and we are over the half court mark. This one, another Scottie. I mean, again, 23 seconds. We are over. Mama, we are going fast, in the immortal words of Ricky Bobby. So I just thought that it was really interesting to see how the Toronto Raptors are playing this out. Now, let's hear from Darko Rajakovic on some of the team flaw. We'll hear from Darko Rajakovic, but I just want to make a quick case for something that I had said last live that caught a lot of traction online. A couple of things that I've been saying online have caught a lot of traction lately. But one of the things that I said was that if the Orlando Magic traded Paolo Banchero for RJ Barrett, they wouldn't get that much worse. And I just want to show you the stats. I just want to show you the numbers and logically make a case that these two players are not that far apart. Sure, one of them was first overall pick, but the other one was a much higher rated prospect. I mean, if we're being honest, RJ Barrett, the hype, Maple Mamba, that hype was way higher than anything. Paolo was considered a top 5 pick at best coming into Duke. They were like, is he 5th? Is he 6th? How much does he sweat again? He's losing 7 pounds per game. There were a lot of concerns. Okay. So the fact that the Orlando Magic took him first, I mean, it was a toss up on draft night. They weren't sure. It was like the day before the draft. Is it going to be Chet? Is it going to be Jabari? And then all the odds flipped the day before. And that's probably because the Orlando Magic themselves didn't know. So now he's a first overall pick, and he has a nice playoff series, but it doesn't change the facts of who he's been. And I mean what he's been. And he has not been a superstar at all. I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a trainer out in Texas, and I was like, dude, what would he be he would be a third or fourth option for the Los Angeles Lakers, and I don't think the Lakers are going to be a playoff team this year. What option would he be in Sacramento? Would he be a first option over De'Aaron Fox? No. DeMontis Sabonis? No. So again, different context. If RJ Barrett was on the Orlando Magic, you would be talking about RJ Barrett very differently because he'd be buoyed by all of these defensive players. And it would be almost like, okay, yeah, he's not a superstar, but he's one of the best young players in the league. The context would be so different. And I'm sorry, if you've watched Paolo and you've watched RJ, you'll realize there's a lot that these two have in common. They're both bully ball guys. They both get to the line. I mean, last year, RJ was a much better three-point shooter. You can say RJ's in his fifth year. By his fifth year, that Paolo is going to be better. But what does that help you this year? I don't care what Paolo's going to be in 5 years, 3 years, 2 years. I'm saying right now. And, Charles Barkley came out with his list today, and we'll look at that too, of the top 50 players. And, I was really happy to see Scottie Barnes as the top 20 player on his list, but he also had Paolo above him. And he's not the only one. Most people have had Paolo over Scottie, and I think it's crazy. There's another player that deserves a little bit of a different context, and that's Immanuel Quickley. I mean, again, people were very shocked when they saw the contract for Immanuel Quickley, 162.5. I mean, it was initially reported as 175 for 5 years, and myself included, I was a little bit shocked as well until I found out the contract was flat. But take a look at Immanuel Quickley's stats last year versus Jalen Green and point to the area where you feel Jalen Green is better. Please help me. Help me understand what Jalen Green does better than Immanuel Quickley. He's not a better defender. He's not a better shooter. He's not a better passer. What is he? He's not a more effective scorer. What is he? He's a better athlete. Okay. Help me understand. Gerald Green, another, highly touted, electrifying dunker? Is he worth a max contract? I don't understand this. Jalen Green just made history with that contract, and I just don't understand it. So we'll talk just briefly right now about the contracts that were handed out yesterday, and then we'll get to Darko Rajakovic. So for those of you who don't know, this is the 2021 draft class. It was one of the most hyped draft classes. And, there are certain guys in this draft class who've already been taken care of from the contractual point of view, which is Scottie Barnes, Cade Cunningham, Franz Wagner. If I'm not mistaken, did Evan Mobley also sign one? He should have. If he hasn't already, he should have. But if he hasn't, if he did, it was a max contract. Point being, there were some variables that were hanging in the balance. And those variables were specifically, sorry. This is like the ultimate like technical difficulties draft. I need a coffee to calm down. My gosh. The variables were Jalen Johnson. What was he going to get paid? The variables were Jalen Green, Jalen Suggs. These were all high draft picks. Trey Murphy. So those guys did get paid. And we'll take a look at the transactions right here. And I mean, Jalen Johnson, I think the 5 years, 150, given the fact that he played really well last year, is good. I think it's a little rich, but it's fair. I have no strong takes about it. Aaron Gordon signing a 3-year, $103 million extension, including his player option. So in a way, it is really like it's like a 4-year, 133. Because he wouldn't have picked up the player option if he hadn't gotten the higher amount. So I understand it from that perspective. So they have to overpay a little bit. But Aaron Gordon is nearly 30 years old, if I'm not mistaken. He is not going to age well into this contract. And this is a mistake. But that's what you do when you have a franchise player. That's what you do when you win a championship. Everyone gets paid. And Fred VanVleet will be the first person to tell you that. Like, when you win a championship, everybody gets paid. The Raptors, OG Anunoby did not play a single game for the Raptors in the playoffs the year they won the championship. He is viewed as a champion. He has a championship, banner next to his name on Basketball Reference. And I don't care what you say, champions get paid at least 20% more. And that's the cost of doing business when you win a championship. So I don't like that deal from a strict basketball perspective. There's no way in hell you're telling me that he is worth that while Gary Trent and DeLon Wright are signing minimum contracts. I just don't get it. And that kind of points to how important it is to get those other deals right. Now, another deal that I was shocked by was Alperen Şengün, 5 years, 185. Look, man, in a world in which Cade Cunningham, Franz Wagner, and Scottie Barnes are signing max contracts, he is absolutely deserving of a max contract. So Alperen Şengün signing a 5-year 185 is insane to me. Like the fact that he just left he potentially left a lot on the table because he is one guy who could actually make all NBA. I know that sounds very far-fetched to some of you. You're like, who would he bump? Maybe he bumps Domantas Sabonis. He and Scottie actually have a legit chance at all NBA. And the fact that his agent did not negotiate a max, I mean, shit. Just hit restricted free agency next year, bro. I mean, Alperen Şengün, if you listen to this, fire your freaking agent. This is a mistake. Jaden Ivey, 3 years, 18 million. I think that's fine. He played really well for them in the playoffs. Corey Kispert, 4 years, 54 million. Shooters get paid. I get it. Jalen Suggs, 5 years, 150. I am torn about this. He has a slew of health concerns. He has one good season under his belt. I don't see who you're betting against here. I get it, though, but I ran a poll on X/Twitter. Jalen Suggs, Immanuel Quickley, I think I added 2 more guards to that list. Who is, the best contract? And Immanuel Quickley is like leading that poll. Now, is it because I'm a Raptors YouTuber? Yeah, probably. There's a lot of bias baked into it. But I really would rather pay I'd rather play Immanuel Quickley. I know Jalen Suggs, I'm very high on his defense. I'm not so high on his health. I'm not so high on his, upside as an offensive player. So paying a defender 5 years, 150 feels very hard for me, especially because of the health concerns. If he had no health concerns, I get it, but that's tough. 3 years, 103 for Jalen Green. Oh my lord. This is the worst contract in the NBA. Is that a hot take to say that? It's insane. Jalen Green is not great. He is not a top 10 shooting guard at all, in my opinion. I don't think he's the best shooting guard on his own team. I would prefer Amen Thompson 100 times out of 100. I would take Reed Shepard over him. I would take Fred VanVleet over him. If my goal was to actually win basketball games, he is the 4th best guard on that team. And honestly, he might get pushed by Cam Whitmore. It is insane to me. I understand he went on a massive run last year. This is not a guy who plays defense. He is not a good defender. He has not been a great shooter. So he may grow into this contract, but and you know what? Maybe he will. Because the fact that he would go for a shorter term deal and he's the only one who did is very interesting to me. Is he thinking of maybe wanting to be somewhere else? Maybe. But I don't know, man. Slight of frame, inefficient, not a great playmaker, not a good defender, not a great rebounder, 6'5" guards. Jesus, it's the least effective, least valuable archetype in the NBA, other than maybe a slow-footed lumbering big who can't switch. Like it's not a great investment, but who knows, man? Maybe he comes out and he blows the bricks out of everything and he's their leading scorer and he's averaging 28 points per game and he's figured out how to shoot, more effectively. He wouldn't be the first. He's a very talented player. I just don't understand who you're betting against here. And there's another team in the league that would have given him this contract. Not one. Not a one. Maybe like the Brooklyn Nets or something or the Washington Wizards, because this is Jordan Poole money, but like I understand Jordan Poole is not that great at these things either. And he's a sniper and he's a shooter and shooters get, but Jordan Poole was shooting like really efficiently in Golden State. What happened to Jordan Poole after is not the point. That's not why he got paid. Trey Murphy, 4 years, 112. This is probably my favorite extension by far. I love him. I think, this is a really fair deal. Moses Moody, 3 years, 39 million, steal. I think these two are absolute steals, these two contracts. And I'm not sure how these two contracts got signed and then Jalen Green got his contract after. Like I would be shocked. Anyways, those are the deals. In terms of how they repaint or recontextualize the Scottie contract or whatever, I mean, Scottie was going to get paid, his max money no matter what. There's no chance in hell. You make all-star at that age. You make, rookie of the year. I mean, he's got the pedigree and, give me a 23-year-old who's shown the ability to get better, who's selfless, who's a leader, who's shown a commitment to winning. He's not about to, get paid and then get fat and then give up. So I think it's a safe investment for the Toronto Raptors. But this does put into context RJ Barrett's allegedly toxic contract. And I got to tell you, 27 million for RJ Barrett or 31, 32 million for Aaron Gordon. I understand Aaron Gordon's a great role player, but can we please stop sleeping at RJ Barrett? I understand whatever the hell, the New York media did to this guy's reputation. I don't know. Whatever rumors are out there circulating about him being soft, I don't agree with that at all. I mean, on the one hand, bucket getters are getting paid. On the other hand, this bucket getter who's shooting 60% true shooting is being called washed. I don't get it. So, put some respect on RJ Barrett's name. He's a good player. He's a really good young player. He's 24 years old. And maybe he doesn't become into a superstar, but you crazy if you think his all-star potential is any lower than Jalen Green or Jalen Suggs. I'm sorry. I understand Jalen Suggs provides a very valuable role. He's a role player. OG Anunoby pretty much started an exodus of role players getting paid. He's like started a movement of role players getting paid. I get it. I value role players more than anybody. That's why I'm so happy about Trey Murphy getting paid. But Trey Murphy got paid like a role player. Like 4 years, 112 is like role player money. You know what I mean? Like for a young role player who's got the type of role player that, and he's a sniper too. You know what I mean? Like you want to talk about paying a shooter. That's like Corey Kispert shooting with like Jalen Green athleticism wrapped into one frigging effective basketball player. Like he's one of my 50 favorite basketball players in the world, and he's really good. So, anyways, let's move on to Darko Rajakovic and talking about
What were the points of emphasis with Scottie's development this offseason, and how do you think he sort of carried that over to preseason?
Scottie worked really hard this offseason. He was in the gym a lot. He was very organized, structured. He did a good job in the weight room as well. It was continuing his overall development. It was his three-point shooting. It was defensive efficiencies and understanding our schemes. It was how to create shots, how to touch the paint, post-ups. There was a lot of things that we worked on, and that becomes that's going to be a staple for him for the next couple of years.
I noticed he used the mid-range shot a couple of times, especially in the more one-on-one scenarios. How do you feel about that shot in general, especially with Scottie taking that?
I think depending on the situation, depending on the shot clock, I think that can be a good shot. But also everything comes out of with the context. We don't want to be taking those shots way too early in the shot clock, and if you have other opportunities. But I don't mind that shot when it's happening when you have a lot of space and when defense is retreating, or when we go down in last 7-8 seconds of the shot clock. Getting those shots, elite players in this league, they do it on a high clip. So that's something that we want to continue developing with Scottie as well.
I'm sure that Scottie's leadership is going to develop also his style of leadership throughout the season, but is there any thing that kind of jumps out to you, or any similarities maybe with other players you coach in terms of style of leadership?
What Scottie does really well, he leads by example. He's all in. The way he competes, the way he sets the tone, it goes a long way with everybody else. If you have your franchise player picking up full court and playing defense on, doesn't matter who he guards, that rubs off the right way with everybody else. And offensively, he's also very unselfish. He's looking for his teammates. He likes to push the pace. He's doing all the things that I, as a head coach, also believe in, and that makes it much easier for the whole team to follow his lead.
Darko, have you looked at the schedule, and first, would you break it down in 5 or 10 game increments? And if so, what are your impressions?
I looked at the schedule for sure. I know we're playing Cleveland night, opening night, and I do not know what happens after that.
Coy.
Yep. I really don't want to know.
Was that Michael Grange again? It was like, really? Come on.
Nothing changes with my approach. I really want to focus on our team and how we go day by day and improving. So obviously, we're going to look at what's ahead of us so we can installing certain things, but we're not thinking game 2, 3, 4, 7. Schedule is scheduled. Nobody has control over the schedule, so all we want to do is go game by game and focus on us.
I mean, there are, just to let you know, there are a lot of really good teams in the first, let's say, 20 games. teams that had success last year. Do you look at that as a positive, like as a way to really test your team early, or any reaction at all?
As I said, we really want to be in every single game to compete. We want to go after wins. We want to be at our best, and we want to learn from every experience. So playing against some really good teams early in the season, I think it can only help us. I think it can help us to understand what it takes to compete and win against those kind of teams, and it's going to speed up our process.
You guys dealt with a lot of injuries so far. Where do you feel like you're at after this preseason compared to, I guess last year or whatever, or even when you were an assistant coach? Like, do you feel like you're kind of ready for the start of the preseason, or is there still a lot of work to do because of those injuries and getting everyone on the same page?
I mean, we cannot change the timeline. Season is starting on Wednesday. Guys are gearing up, getting better. I think majority of the team is in pretty good state and shape. I think the rest of the guys will catch up with the team. And as I said, like, we got to approach one game at a time and really be focused on that next day and next practice and next team. So nothing is going to really change with us. We are looking at long-term interest of the team and long-term interest of the players. We want players to be healthy and available for a long run, not just necessarily for one game or the other.
What excites
Kelly did not practice today.
What excites you about the dynamic between RJ, IQ, and Scottie, from whether it's the offseason, what you've seen, or preseason a little bit? What excites you?
It really excites me that they really embraced each other as teammates and as players that bring different kind of skill set to the team. They're spending a lot of time. They're talking a lot basketball. They're like basketball fanatics, all three of them. And it really excites me to see those guys, how they're going to gel and grow as a team.
What was your focus at practice today, and what do you think the focus will be tomorrow?
Practice today was continuing our basic defensive schemes, getting better in communication, understanding NBA's spacing and actions the teams are running. A lot of general stuff. We continued breaking down our offense, teaching nuances of it. So just continuing to put a foundation for our team.
Yes, I would 100%. Okay, so in terms of the structure of this live, it is total chaos. Okay, I've gone all over the place. I totally skipped over the Raptors depth chart talk. My God. Really listen, like one speaker being on just really threw me off. Okay, next subject. We need to talk about Scottie Barnes being top 20 according to Charles Barkley, even though I already alluded to it. Here's Charles Barkley's top 22 players. I don't agree with this list. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I love Scottie. I do not agree with this list at all. Like, there's so much wrong with it. Lauri Markkanen being way too high. Pascal Siakam at 20 is insane. Jaylen Brown at 6. What the hell? This is the dumbest list in the history of the world. And honestly, one of my favorite players finally gets love at 20 from one of my favorite players, Charles Barkley. And it's like, it's so stupid. Jaylen Brown is not this good. Okay. It's not. Like, God. Like, at least it's consistent. You can see what he values, but like, wow, this is insane. There's some real like credibility issues with all of these lists in general. Like, you can really, really poke holes in most of them, and you just be like, oh my God, like, what the hell is going on here? I can't logically tell you that there's any heads or tails to this list. I mean, yeah, it's insane. LeBron at 11, laugh massive. I mean, honestly, I don't mind LeBron at 11. I do mind who's ahead of LeBron. That's kind of crazy to me. Jaylen Brown being ahead of LeBron is nuts, but that's my one big beef. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is at 9. That's also crazy. Like, what are we doing here? There's so much wrong with this list, and honestly, I don't want to give it any more attention, but it was nice to see Scottie at 19. It was nice to see somebody having Scottie, because, I mean, Shaq had Scottie at 47. After he DJ'd with him, that's insane. Anyways, all right, let's take a brief little 20-second detour into what Jaylen Brown said about unnamed sources.
That I think is cowardice. I think,
first of all, the context here is that earlier there was some mention that Stephen A. Smith had some unnamed sources that felt that Jaylen Brown was not getting opportunities because people didn't like him and they felt him to be not as marketable because he's smart. And
Historically, unnamed sources have attacked some of our greats.
Mm-hmm.
We are not responsible for what they lack in design. Frankly, they can call all their buddies and friends from all over the world, all the unnamed sources, and they can shove it where they got it from.
I love that. And honestly, I don't like to tell people to go back and watch previous videos, but sometimes it's really interesting to watch a previous video. And the I investigated Scottie Barnes work ethic video, in which I laid out like the entire timeline. I mean, I'd completely forgotten about this video. I'm so insanely proud of this video. It is like to date one of my favorite videos in this channel's history. And I'm shocked that it only got 5,000 views because it was a really detailed examination of how this bullshit happened. And I gotta tell you, like some of these unnamed sources, like where are they now? You know, you had David Thorpe on William Lou's podcast on Sportsnet saying Siakam's an MVP type, putting him in the same conversation as LeBron and Giannis. He's like, well, on the one hand, there's Siakam and LeBron and Giannis. It's like casual, you know, and you don't lose your status in the industry for saying something like that. You don't lose any credibility with your peers because you said it when it was fashionable, when Siakam was putting up 26 and 9. But isn't that why we pay to have insiders tell us stuff? Isn't that why we want to listen to coaches and people who know NBA people? Because we want like a credible view into these things, and we want to know things before they happen, right? We want to know about things before they happen. That's why we pay attention to some of these shows, right? And Rusty Nail, thank you so much. Hit the like button, folks. Yes, please do hit the like. So I guess I just want to say, as this year unfolds, please be mindful of unnamed sources. Please be mindful of media agendas and biases. And I'm so proud, insanely proud of this community. I'm not going to say it too many times more, but I'm really proud because what we've done is completely changed the game when it comes to the media in this city. Every single time I see like one of those little hit pieces or one of those little jabs, those subtle little passive aggressive jabs, I'll always look at the comments and there's like 12, 13 of you calling it out. Just like, hey, this is biased, this is blatant, this is incorrect, this is factually incorrect. There's little things that the media will do to plant seeds of doubt in your mind so that later on when you read the story it will make sense, right? Because all those little things that they've been putting down, be like, oh, Scottie Barnes is late for practice once, oh, Scottie Barnes left the court 3 minutes early, 3 seconds early, oh, and then they can give you the big, Scottie's like not a good teammate, people don't like Scottie, inside sources say. And when you're losing, that's when these things can be put out. Because again, a losing season in Toronto is always toxic. I don't care what sport you're playing. I don't care what sport you're playing. You're playing baseball, it's toxic. You playing football, it's toxic. You playing anything. You can play pee-wee hockey, and Lord help you, if you lose, it's toxic. And I'm trying to say losing doesn't always have to be toxic. The Maple Leafs do not have to be the basis for how you cover Toronto sports. It just doesn't have to be that way. Greg with a $2 super chat. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you. It doesn't always have to be that way. And that's why this channel is taking the lead on being overwhelmingly positive. Not to wave our pom-poms, not to be delusional hype men, but because there is something really good happening here. So take a look initially at, I wanted to do the depth chart before we did this. Take a look at this roster. Okay, now this does not inspire championship confidence. I get that. Don't worry. I'm not about to sell you on this roster is going to win a championship. But this is a young roster. This is a roster that requires some time. But I also want you to think about this roster in terms of how they can play and how they can unlock advantages. What is the advantage that you can see when you look at this roster? Is there something that you think they could probably do better than many teams, if not most teams in the NBA? I think they can run. That's one thing that I keep thinking about. Man, this team can run. They have good passers everywhere. Yak's a good passer. That's good for outlets. RJ showed great passing last year. He showed a great lift in passing. There's so many teams out there that employ non-passers or weak passers, error-prone passers, limited passers in terms of their scope and vision. Not this team. Grady's a good passer. Here's another thing. Every one of those players can initiate the fast break. Yes, even Jakob can take 2 dribbles and make that first pass, which means everyone can grab it off the rim and go. Nobody has to do that typical thing that a lot of bigs do, which is they come down with the board. As the biggest player on the court, you're going to grab a lot of boards because you're playing low in the defense. I don't think I recall Brook Lopez dribbling the basketball up the court a lot. I don't remember Robin Lopez doing it. There's a lot of bigs that don't do it. I don't think Zach Edey's going to do it for a while, but all of these guys can do it. And you know what? When you look at the bench, guess what? They can all do it too. Kelly Olynyk can run a fast break. Ochai can run a fast break. Bruce Brown, Jacoby Walter, Davion Mitchell. They can all run a fast break. Chris Boucher thinks he can run a fast break. He certainly wants to. Bruno Fernando, oh my God, please God help me. Ulrich Chamche will one day run a fast break and it will blow your mind. My point is this team can run and they can run really. And what did they say? Like, what did Darko say? It's sometimes it's going to look bad, man. It's going to look bad sometimes. You're going to have a game with like 37 turnovers or something. And people are going to think you should be disbarred from the NBA. But you're also going to have a team where you're going to smoke a team you're not supposed to beat by 35, and they're not going to know what hit them. Playing this way is going to be really great. Now, a lot of teams that play fast are also really disorganized defensively. And I've talked a lot about on this channel about the link between offense and defense, but I'll reiterate some stuff. When you are constantly scoring, you are able to set up your defense. When you put pressure on the other team to react very quickly, to move a lot, you're also actually helping your defense. See, people always do this. And it drives me insane that people have this complete, like, this is offense and this is defense. So on one side, you've got offense and then the whole world stops and then you play defense. But that's not how basketball works. That's never how basketball has worked. Not in the history ever. Let me ask you a question. Does guarding Michael Jordan make you worse? Yes. It's exhausting. It's demoralizing. So having a Michael Jordan, this physically bruising, relentless, trash-talking guard, just attacking you all night, you're going to be worse offensively immediately. And therefore, he's going to look much better defensively because of what he's doing to you on the other end. Does chasing Rip Hamilton around like 4 screens as he runs marathons around you, is that demoralizing? Is that draining? Did you see Scottie's like box score the day that he held Steph Curry to that low? He couldn't score because his legs were dead. Chasing around a guy like Steph Curry, that's the point. The Warriors' offense fueled their defense as much as their defense fueled their offense. If your defense is great, your offense is going to look brilliant, because you're always going to be running in transition. If you are an event creator, if you're a Cooper Flag type, when you're creating those shot blocks, and not only is it hella demoralizing, right? So that immediately your defense is impacting your offense, and your offense is once again impacting your defense, right? Like if you have a great offensive player, think about this. You have a great offensive player. How much stress does that put on your defense? Tremendously. Once again, offense, defense linked, right? So when you are a team that creates a lot of events on defense, tipped passes, high hands, good closeouts, good communication, good rim turns, getting in the passing lanes, making those passes just a little bit harder, shrinking those ankles just a little bit more, getting position early. Well, now you are suddenly making the offense way less efficient. But it works the other way too, right? So when you're creating like all these turnovers, you're putting it in the hole. Like you're a fast team. You're pretty fast across the board. You can play super small with Scottie at the 5, right? You could run out a lineup this year and not be bad defensively of Immanuel Quickley. Let's say Immanuel Quickley, Jamal Shed, or let's not put Jamal Shed. Immanuel Quickley, Jacoby Walter, Grady Dick, RJ Barrett, Scottie Barnes. I mean, you're small, but you're not like super small. You know what I mean? Like you're not tiny. You still have that big monster back there, Scottie Barnes, right? You imagine how fast that team could go? Do you imagine how much pressure you can put and how much and spraying out to the shooters like Immanuel Quickley and Grady Dick and Jacoby Walter? Do you realize what kind of angles that opens to driving lanes for Scotty and RJ? Do you understand the potential of this team? Is what I'm trying to tell you. Like from a basketball perspective, do you understand how much this team can stress out a defense? I don't know if it will materialize into wins this year. I'm telling you that the roster makes so much sense for what they're doing. It makes so much sense. Last year, the Toronto Raptors offense generated some of the greatest shot quality in the league. They just weren't making shots. Gary was missing shots. Jalen McDaniels was hopeless. Grady was missing shots. Now he's hitting shots. Maybe he'll continue to hit shots. Maybe he won't. But the point is the shot quality is great. Shot quality is great. The process of offense is great. Development is great. Continuous momentum in this direction will be good. A lot of addition by subtraction, in my opinion, with Gary Trent going out. Is Jacoby Walter better than Gary Trent Jr. right now? No, but he's a better defender and he's a better athlete. He's faster. He has better off-ball tendencies. He's just not a better player right now. He will become one, though. I'm confident in that. I'm confident that Jacoby's going to be a better player than Gary Trent Jr. And not in 5 years, like in 2 years. I'm confident in that. Jonathan Mobo, is that an upgrade on whatever the hell you lost to get him? Probably soon, right? So it's going to come with some growing pains, but there's going to be some really exciting basketball, in my opinion, in Toronto. Okay. That's the depth chart. What was the second part of this? Or is it backwards? Hang on one second. No, hang on. It was the start of the schedule. So here we go. This is not pretty. Why do I keep losing this? Hold on. This is not pretty. It's Cleveland Cavaliers tomorrow night, 7:30. Have you covered post game? Philadelphia, Minnesota, Denver. You can go 0-4 so quickly. But what did I say before? This is when you want to play these teams. This is when you want to play at Denver. This is when you want to play at Minnesota. Before they've had their chance, before people have had a chance to scout your offense, before people have had a chance to figure out that you're actually a team that they have to get up for, catch them by surprise, get some early wins. Because those late season wins that are waiting for you, they're just waiting for you. Trust me. Washington is not going to get better. Charlotte is not going to get better. Neither of these teams are about to surprise you and be like, oh, wow. Oh, that's a competitive 37-win team. No, they're going to be bad, and they're going to get worse throughout the year. So you face the teams that are going to get better early, and you face the teams that are going to get worse later. Oh, man. This is shaping up to be a very surprising year for the Toronto Raptors, in my opinion. A.O. Gorman saying you beat them early. That's exactly it. I'm going to tell you what Darko Rajakovic won't tell you, which is this is when you want to face these teams. I mean, Jack Armstrong basically echoed the similar sentiments. This is exactly when you want to face these teams. You don't want to be facing these teams, when they're tuning up for the playoffs. I promise you, that is the worst time in the world that you would want to be facing those teams. Anyways, let's hear from Scottie Barnes and Jakob Poeltl.
I was a pirate.
Who had the best costume?
Best costume? I'll probably say Bobby. I don't know what he was. He had on a big red fur coat and some white face paint. I don't know what it was, but it was pretty nice.
Yeah, what was it like playing with Quickley on Friday?
It was good. We pushed the pace. We was getting things back sorted. Get the feel right. We got still getting them back and working on it in practice. So he went straight into it, and I think he did pretty well.
Quickly starting, you got Davion and Jamal in that second unit with you.
Quick thanks to Cast 202929 for the super chat. Appreciate you, man.
For longer stretches, and that looked pretty energetic. Like that looked like it could be kind of a fun group to be
Uh, yeah, it was who was out there? It was me, Bruno, those two, and I think and Boucher. We got some those guys that all bring a lot of energy, and we pressed up immediately right away and got a steal. I think we chased the ball down. The clips online. We chased the ball down. We all just ball pressure. Those are guys that we all just really want to defend. We try to get after it.
And I mean, if that's going to be a good chunk of your minutes are going to be played with a bench, like kind of anchoring a bench unit. Is that the style you would like that group to play to?
I think that's the standard for our whole team. That's what we got to do to win games, and so that's the standard for the whole team.
What would you say this team's identity is going into the new season?
Push the pace and play defense. That's our main priorities. That's what we've been working on a lot. We got a lot of young guys that we can be able to play fast and try to be aggressive on defense. And so our defense has to be elite, rebound the ball so we can be able to push the ball.
I saw Mobo shooting threes over here. Looked like he was connecting on a bunch of them. I'm sure you went through a similar process with your shot. How different is it shooting in here compared to shooting in a game?
This is where you build your confidence to shoot it in game. So this is very important. It's about willing to take it in the game and just shoot it and not care. You practice it here in games and it just builds up your confidence.
Did you dress up for the Halloween party?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so overall, just to summarize and comment a little bit on everything Scottie's been doing this offseason, there's been a lot of primary initiator stuff. I was talking with a trainer friend of mine, another person, not Brian, not the other Brian, not any person that we've interviewed, but a different trainer who works out of Miami, who's familiar with Scottie going back, way back. And we were talking about it, and he said, it's never looked quite this good, but it's still got some ways to go, right? Why do you want to be low? As a basketball player, why do you want to be low? You want to be low because then you can explode. You have a place to go when you're low. When you're upright, you have no place to go. Everything is very predictable. Your handle is a little bit more loose. And that vertical plane that you play with as a basketball player, when you can get a little bit low, especially if you know how to get low properly, not bending down, So a lot of that comes down to just flexibility. Some of it just comes down to know-how, flexibility, craft, whatever. Scottie's getting a little bit lower in some of his dribble combinations, and I think it's still got a ways to go. There's probably going to be 2 more summers of major jumps that are coming. Now, when most people hear that, they're hearing, "Oh, Scottie Barnes is not ready. He's 23." Here's something radical that I'm going to present to you. When Scottie Barnes was drafted, he was drafted as a project. And some of us, myself included, said that's not true. He's way better, blah, blah, blah. I'm here to tell you I'm wrong. I'm wrong. He is a project. The difference is that some projects are NBA ready right away and can actually play minutes because they're just that damn good. Like if you had a Shaquille O'Neal at the age of 17, he was a project. Just happens to be good enough physically, mentally, he can see the game well enough that he could still be a role player for you. Scottie was a project, but project is not a bad word, just like rebuild is not a bad word. The project element comes in terms of where you are from your ceiling. So if you're a project, the assumption is you're like 10% of the way there in terms of the player that you're going to be. Giannis was a project. It didn't stop Giannis from being an all-star by year 4 or 3. I can't remember when he became an all-star. It didn't stop him from being a starter on pretty much day 1 because that's how gifted he is. Scottie's gifted. Now, I pushed back so hard when the media tried to dress him down as a project that I actually didn't realize he is a project. In relation to where he's going to be someday, what we saw on day 1 was nothing. Compare it to someone like Luka, where he is the furthest thing from a project. He came out of the box ready to be an all-star. And that's different. But has he grown from that point like tremendously? Not much. He's a little bit better. He's a little bit, but the gap between Luka rookie year and Luka now is like 40%, 30%. It's not 120%. It's not like a 600% growth kind of thing. So when we think of a project, we think of Ulrich Shamshay, Bruno Caboclo. That's the connotation of project. We don't think of people like Scottie Barnes and Giannis Antetokounmpo and Victor Wembanyama. Wemby is a project too, by the way, just so we're clear on that. Victor Wembanyama is a hell of a project. He can't dribble properly right now. He can't shoot properly right now. His skill work has a lot to go. He's turnover prone. He's just gifted. He's insanely gifted, and he's so gifted that even as a project, he's still like a 97th to 99th percentile basketball player. That's how great he is. Those are instincts. Scottie has great instincts. Scottie has great basketball IQ, but he's still a project in the same way that Paul George was a project, in the same way that Tracy McGrady was a project, in the same way that Kawhi Leonard was a project, which means that Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Scottie Barnes, they could all start on day one. The difference between Kawhi, PG, and Scottie is those guys didn't win Rookie of the Year. Those guys didn't become all-stars right away, right? They didn't generate the amount of hype, because the problem is Scottie's hype is directly proportionate to the hype of his draft class. The 2021 class is supposed to be generational, which means the best player from that draft class was supposed to become something close to LeBron. And unfortunately for Scottie, Cade did not become that. Cade did not become anything close to that. Cade is arguably not a top 5 player in that draft class right now. Şengün didn't become that. Scottie didn't become LeBron. None of these guys became that level of player, which warranted the hype. And so Scottie was sort of the last man standing. And so the pressure then naturally would fall on him. But that's not who he was. He wasn't LeBron. He wasn't Melo. He wasn't those guys. He was the Darko who worked out. The Darko Milicic. The Darko Milicic was absolutely a project, but the difference is Darko Milicic did not work out in the NBA. But he was so far. But people said, look at the gifts, look at the coordination, look at the shot form. This could be like the best center in the NBA. That's what people saw. So it's the same thing with Scottie. Now, right now, you're going to see probably a 55% realized Scottie Barnes come out and push all NBA. I'm confident. I'm confident he's going to be an all NBA caliber player this year, whether he wins it or not. And while you're watching this, you might see some losses and be like, hey, will this ever work out? Blah, 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 blah. And I'll remind you, he's 23 years old. And that 55% is still 45% away from the top. And I think that it is a blessing that the Toronto Raptors have the core that they have around him right now. Not only synergistically does it make so much sense, like the way they play basketball, this is tailor-made to his team. A team that presses up defensively and a team that runs on offense. Like, you have absolutely built a team around your star player, and it's built in the vision of the basketball he wants to play. I mean, if you want to go back to year 1, year 2, all those clips of Scottie losing his mind on the court, holding his head, showing, like bad body language or whatever the media wanted to say. What was it because of? It was because the team wasn't pushing. It wasn't, they weren't getting back on defense. They weren't pressuring enough. They were missing communications. He would lose his mind. He would like clap at his teammates, like, let's go, like he's trying to press up full court. This poor guy, who cannot guard, the Ja Morants of the world. He's trying to guard Ja Morant just to spark some sort of effort from some of his lazier teammates. That's the truth. He's running in transition over and over, and Fred is missing him every single time because Fred doesn't want the turnover. He doesn't want to make the pass. That's my point. You have now basically created a basketball team in the vision of Scottie Barnes, and it's going to be hella exciting. So I am excited for this season. Let's see if Jakob Poeltl is excited for this season, because I'll tell you something right now. This is one of my favorite Jakob interviews of all time. He's so light the entire way through. And if there was any doubt whether he missed Fred and Pascal and whether he really wanted to be here, I think he's just squashed that with this and his play and the seriousness with which he's approached this. This is a hooper. Like, if you've met enough hoopers, Yak is like a hooper's hooper. He's a guy who just wants the ball. He's like the old guy at the park who just comes to play basketball. He's not interested in your trash talk. He's not interested in your foul calls. He just wants to hoop, man. And he just wants to hoop well. And that was one thing he said early. He said, like, as long as we're trying to win. And he realizes they're trying to win. I think you can only try to win with this much talent long enough before you actually start winning. And yeah, I think there's something weird that Kyle Lowry described the year they won the championship. And if I want to paraphrase this carefully, but I think he said something like, we looked around, Kawhi and I looked around, and there was like this feeling of like, oh, like we could actually do something. Teams know when they're terrible. Trust me. Everyone on the Washington Wizards, their whole family, their trainers, they all know that team is ass. Nobody in the Washington Wizards organization is like, it's us and like the Boston Celtics in the East. Nobody. I think that this team thinks they're good. I don't think anyone on this team thinks this is a bad team. They're coming out, they're saying all the right stuff, they're saying it's a rebuild, they're saying we're blah 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 blah, but I think internally they believe that's why the vibes are so high. They're not preparing for Cooper Flag. And I hope you aren't either, because you're going to be sorely disappointed. Check this out.
It was Luigi. I just found it once. It looked great, I think.
Who had the best costume?
Out of the players?
Yeah, or anyone.
Anybody? I mean, we had a whole contest about it. I think it was Brandon from our tech support. I don't know what the role is called, like whatever. But he went as Darth Maul. It was pretty good. Full commitment, which I like. So.
Darko didn't know who he was. He also said Brandon, but didn't know what the costume was.
Oh, well, you gotta watch Star Wars first, I guess. Maybe they didn't have it in Serbia.
Can you, after preseason, do you have a better idea of what the identity of this team is going to be, and what do you think that will be?
I think it's pretty much stay true to what I thought it was going to be, like a young team that's working hard. Like, we're going to be playing free, which is going to lead to, like a lot of learning experiences, like maybe a little bit of chaos at times. Like, we're still trying to figure each other out, but once we do figure
Jakob with the title. Also, the new media availability is out, and right after we hear from Yak, we're going to hear from Immanuel Quickley today, like 10 minutes ago.
it out, I think it's going to be hard to guard because we're playing hard, playing fast, playing like unpredictable. So yeah, that's the goal, I think.
Do you notice any major differences from the style of play from last year for your position, or not really?
I mean, I don't think there's a major difference compared to at least the end of last year. Maybe a little bit more intense even this year, and like a little bit more like force and physicality, especially on offense. But overall, I think it's a similar style.
In terms of playing out of the high post?
Yeah, I mean, like not just the schemes. Like I think in general, there's just like a theme throughout all of our different like offensive schemes where we just try to move a lot, try to cut a lot, like trying to find random movements, random screens, like.
I love that he describes it as random. It is, again, one of my favorite interviews in Raptors history is Jakob Poeltl, because I don't know if it's his Austrian heritage, but I have just loved all the Austrian people I've ever met, because I find them to be like the most honest people on earth. Like every Austrian person I've ever met is like, you are crap. Like there is a bluntness and honesty in that culture that is honestly refreshing for me, because I'm similar in the style. And I just love the fact that he just called it random, because that's exposing a lot of how they're preaching it, right? Again, set plays can be scouted. Random motion offense is harder to scout, because it's the offensive player that dictates the defensive reaction, right? It's constant. So the advantage is always for the offensive player. Even if you take something as simple as you and me playing one-on-one. If I'm playing on offense, the advantage is on me, because I know when I'm going to shoot. You have to read when I'm going to shoot. So in theory, you have to be such a great defender relative to the offensive player that you're playing against, if that makes sense. So yeah. Lance saying Raps could use Donovan Clingan. They sure the hell could.
there's not a whole lot of set plays, and even within those set plays, there's like multiple options where we kind of make reads out of it to just try and keep the defense on their toes, try and keep the defense in the rotation.
Also, other words, Chris Boucher is not a part of the main rotation when we're healthy, because this is not going to be a style that's going to cater to him.
Rotations moving, so we can find mistakes within their rotations and take advantage of it.
Have you identified a particular strength you guys have that going into the regular season?
I mean, we're young. We know we can play fast. Like I said, I think we can attack the rim and be a nuisance there. I think that's going to be our biggest strength, like trying to.
Liben Goulad, did you heard Jakob comments about tanking? That's disgusting. Chris Boucher is nice. Stop. So let's put it this way. At least you're consistent with your bad takes. Yak did not say tanking. So one, stop misquoting him because you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Number two, I'm not surprised that the person who can't understand the first thing is going to come up with this thing. So at least you're consistent. Welcome to the community.
Like, really force the defense to be on their heels at all times. Like even a half court set, like we're trying to learn how to be more disciplined and a little bit more poised, but within that we still have to stay with our aggressive identity to be.
First of all, Yak is young. He hasn't played a ton of NBA minutes relative to NBA guys. I mean, he's never played for Tibbs. He played for Popovich, and he played off the bench. He's young in NBA years.
Successful out there, I think.
Yeah, you play a lot out of the high post, and you obviously Grady and Ochai when the starting lineup. Did you notice an improvement in how they were able to get free and get open for you to sort of catch and throw them the ball? So.
That's a really rare, good question from William Liu.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a learning experience for everybody, even for me. Like I had a bunch of turnovers in the preseason out of it because we're not 100% on the same page on it yet. But then we also had a couple of plays where I think against Brooklyn, I found Ochai on the backdoor cut. There was like another one against I think it was Washington, Grady on one. Yeah, so it's going to be a learning experience for me, like trying to figure out when to pass it, when to maybe find a weak side, and then for us to get on the same page that I know when they're about to cut, so I can make the read a little bit earlier and then I'm not caught off guard with it.
How was it having Quickley back in the lineup on Friday and continuing to build that relationship on the court?
That was great. I think we missed him out there in the preseason. Like obviously, like he's kind of our offensive floor general. Like he spaces.
You know, it's so funny. This is a fixed mindset. This is a growth mindset. This is a balanced mindset. And I agree with Daniel. It's in the past. It doesn't matter anymore. The trade is the trade. At the time, it was terrible. It cost you a lot. The fallout of it has been bad, but the player is good. So how you want to feel about what you gave up in the past. So take Daniel's lead here and just forget about it and move forward. Okay. Yeah, see, this is you. Like basically, like I don't even need to know you any further than these 3 comments. I'm like, I pretty much have your entire life summed up at this point. No, Jakob for first round was horrible when you look back at it. Dude, this channel led a movement against that trade. Like I think I went live the day it was about to happen, and I said the Raptors are about to make a mistake because I heard they were going to do it. And then that night itself, like I was so shocked when they actually did it. Because there was a rumor like that I'd heard like the day before that they were looking to trade for him. And I was like, there's no way in hell they're this stupid. I didn't know the framework of the deal, just knowing that trading for him was going to help you win. And I didn't think the team was worth saving. So I just don't understand what the point is of bitching about it now. Yeah, you lost your mind when that trade happened, Rob. Yes, because I couldn't believe it actually happened. Because you hear these things sometimes. And I think it was like literally the name of the stream in which we found out that the Raptors had traded for Jakob Poeltl was literally called "The Raptors Are About to Make a Mistake." Yeah, and I think I said no. It was very dramatic. Point being, Look, the difference here is what you were doing back then is different than what you're doing now. Your team was different back then. Jakob Poeltl was a finishing piece to a team that was built around Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, and OG Anunoby, and it's just very expensive. It's expensive for nothing. It doesn't make sense. Right now, the context of the Jakob trade is completely different. You can't go back and change the trade. The trade is what it was, but you can completely recontextualize what he means to your team right now. Passing from the high post, the way Darko is using him is so different. And I'm trying to tell you that he has never been used this way before. And I'm not sure if he's over leveraged at this point as a playmaker. I don't know if Darko is trying to create some sort of Domantas Sabonis wannabe with him. I have no idea. What I'm saying is that he's a very valuable player. As a rim protector, as a playmaker, he is a very valuable player. He is a very good player. He is a top 100 player in the league. And if you saw the deals that were handed out yesterday, and if you legitimately think that there is some massive gap between him and Aaron Gordon, like, yeah, you prefer Aaron Gordon over him for sure. Yes, I 100% agree. But it's not that far off. It's not that far off. They're not like different class of players. They're just a different utility to an Aaron Gordon. So I don't know. I think I'm fine with Yak. I think, at the time, the trade is one thing, but the player today, how he meshes with Scottie, what he means to the young bigs on this team, what he shores up for you defensively, how useful that archetype is, the fact that he can actually run, pick and roll and is such a good screener for your system. Again, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, man. It's always in the eye of the beholder. What did I say? Paolo Banchero would be a third option in Sacramento. At that point, no one's talking about him like a superstar. No one's talking about him like a future great. No one's making him an all-star. He would never make an all-star in Sacramento. But carrying a lowly offense like the Orlando Magic, and suddenly people are seeing an all-star. This beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So Jakob Poeltl, in the context of a roller for Fred VanVleet that could have been had for much cheaper in a different package, doesn't excite me. Jakob Poeltl as the means of saving the 2021-2022 Raptors season doesn't excite me. Jakob Poeltl as potentially costing you a Derek Lively, case in Wallace, etc., doesn't excite me at all. And Jakob Poeltl for a first-round pick that ended up being a lottery pick does not excite me. But please understand, at the time that they made that deal, that wasn't supposed to be a lottery pick. It was a mess up, yes. But right now, Jakob Poeltl as a veteran mentor on this young team, as a winning type of player who can teach the young bigs on this team how to be a pro, a really good screen and roll partner for Immanuel Quickley that is going to unlock all sorts of angles for his pick and roll game, and a really good defensive anchor is something that I am actually really excited about. So that's my take on Jakob Poeltl.
Before really well, me and him worked a lot in the summertime on our little two-man game. So it's too bad we didn't get to try it in preseason. We're gonna have to kind of go all in with the regular season. I guess we got a little bit of run-in against Brooklyn, but yeah, it was good to see him back out there on the court.
You haven't had all of the starters.
I don't want to make you feel like a doctor again, but any changes in any practice statuses or anything going into tomorrow?
This is for today. This is today's media availability.
RJ Barrett participated more in the practice. He's doing every day more. He's literally day to day at this point. We'll see what tomorrow brings and how we approach with the game with him. Kelly did not participate in practice today. He's feeling better, but still not to the point that he can participate in team.
That's a devastating blow to your second unit just because you have nothing as your backup bigs, right? Like you have Chris Boucher, Bruce Brown's out, Ulrich can't play right now. It's going to be Jonathan Mobo and Bruno Fernando, and that's a scary proposition, man. So you're going to lose a lot of minutes with Kelly Olynyk out. So I think it's Kelly and RJ. Maybe a busy summer. It's not the worst idea to get them a break right now, but it's a big blow.
Practices, and there is no update and change with Bruce Brown and Jakob.
So Daniel asking what happened to Olynyk is lower back stiffness, if I'm not mistaken.
Any contact for RJ today?
No, not yet. No.
Darko, what? Contact?
Not yet. Not yet for a contract. He took participation in practice, but we made sure that he's only getting reps against coaches, and we were trying to avoid contact there. No, not yet.
Why do you think this team's best by playing hard ball on the ball defense? Like, why is it the best way for this team to play?
I think first of all we have personnel. We have a couple of guys that they're really good at it. I think that playing aggressive on the ball and having ball pressure makes it hard on the opponents. I think it's physically taxing on the opponents, and I think that's our best chance to develop our habits of playing hard, playing together, covering for each other. I really believe that any good defense starts with good ball defense.
And do you have the players behind it to back up that kind of pressure, do you feel? Or those wings
we have a couple of guys that are good rim protectors in Yak and then Scottie and Chris Boucher, those guys in particular. We still want to see Bruno doing better job there, but it's not necessarily just protecting the rim with the size, it's also protecting the rim with the positioning on the court. And that's something that we're working hard to get our guys in good protection spots, even for guard situations, so we can do better job of.
Zaire saying Darko doesn't know what he's doing, and you do. Oh my God.
Protecting the paint.
There seems to be a real closeness and camaraderie with this group. I imagine a lot of that has to do with the time that they spent together over the summer. Compared to teams that you've been a part of in the past, like, is this unique? And
I have no idea if Grady Dick is ready to be a shooter. If what you mean by shooter is prime Ray Allen, I don't know if that player is available either, though.
And do you think that something like that kind of togetherness and camaraderie will translate on the court?
I'm 100% sure that this team is connected. This team has very high empathy and love for each other, and they're really cheering for each other. In each game, in each practice, they're doing a really good job of communicating with each other. When we commit some mistake, players are always patient, talking to each other, how we can solve problems, coaching each other, and that's a testament for team.
Zaire, Doc Rivers would have been better. No, he wouldn't.
Teams that are very, very connected. So I do believe that that's going to translate into the games as well, because they're going to be more connected and fighting for each other. And I mean, we're playing team sports, so you need to have that team spirit inside the team.
You mentioned the point of attack defense earlier, and obviously Grady is going to be a big part of that, guarding on the perimeter. When you think of what this team could be defensively and what his task might be on that end, what do you look for to say he's made those improvements, I guess even early on in the preseason?
He's 20 years old. He's the future of this organization, and we need to have patience. I need to continue coaching him and keeping him accountable. He knows that, he feels that. A lot of things are new things for him. Learning the league, improving his body. I think that he's capable to do so and to be a good defender. It's just going to take a lot of work and growth, and with that growth there's going to be some failures, but failures are going to be opportunities to learn and get back to it. But it's very important to have all of the guys on the team capable to guard the ball and to do their best guarding the ball.
So here's something funny. There was a question the other day about whether RJ Barrett could be a good defender. We're going to hear from RJ Barrett right after this, and I wonder if defense is going to be talked about. I haven't seen the clip yet, but I was a couple of years ago, I did we were doing an analysis of Donovan Mitchell's defense, right? And Crafted at the time had him abysmally ranked. I think it was like a 2nd to 5th percentile defender, which is a crazy fall off for a guy who came into the league with a really solid reputation as a defender, which is what Donovan Mitchell was. And last year, that defense went up to 87th percentile, which is like the type of growth I don't think I've ever seen. Now, there's fall offs and there's risers, right? Based on the context of the team. So I think a few years ago, I looked at Cameron Johnson and he was like an 87th and 90th percentile. And last year, he was 50th percentile defender. Defensive analytics are very hit or miss. It's so much is dependent on team context and who you're playing with, the lineups, all of it. But man, like if RJ Barrett becomes a half decent defender, I would be like over the moon excited because last year crafted it as like 9th percentile, 10th percentile type of defender. But again, Immanuel Quickley is an example. Immanuel Quickley with the Raptors is not a great defender, has not been a great defender. Bruce Brown with the Raptors has not been a great defender. So I wonder if all of these so-called non-great defenders who were good defenders in other spots were just put in positions where they couldn't defend well last year. Because again, that was something that you noticed last year with the Raptors is Immanuel Quickley came and immediately his offensive role changed. RJ Barrett came, his offensive efficiency skyrocketed. So they really, really implemented offensive growth. But suddenly there was so much defensive regression for everybody. Bruce Brown was worse defensively. We were coming in expecting him to be good, and he's bad. Kelly Olynyk was terrible defensively for the Raptors. But he was good with the Jazz. I don't know what to tell you. He's like an 80 plus percentile defender with the Jazz, but he's playing next to Walker Kessler and everything kind of helped out. So this year, you wonder, RJ Barrett, I don't want to say he's ever been a good defender. He wasn't a good defender at Duke. He wasn't a good defender at Montverde. He wasn't a good defender on the Knicks. But he's been close to competent defensively in the past. And he certainly has the physical tools to be close to competent. Grady, I don't know. We don't have enough data yet, but I don't know, man.
What would progress look like from RJ defensively this year? What do you want to see from him?
I think it goes along the line of the aggressiveness on the ball and also a lot of times off-ball defense, how he's guarding screens, getting over, under, not getting hit, just being always alert and aware on defensive end. So we're looking at each player. There are some general stuff that all the guys need to do, but there are like some areas that certain players need to do a little bit more than other guys. And for RJ, because a lot of times he's guarding 2s, 3s in the game, how he's guarding off-ball action.
Sometimes going into the season, there's like a mantra or words that kind of like set the tone or the theme of the season. Has anything kind of emerged with you to tell the
Chaos. Please say chaos.
I mean, we're talking about our togetherness. We're talking about our competitive spirit. We're talking about a need to win every single day, to win.
Okay, so help me understand. A need to win every single day, every single game, right? Now, I know he said every single day, right? But games happen on days, last I checked, right? Do you see kind of hints that this team is giving, like, that they're not coming out to lose? They're not going to come out and lose basketball games, man. They have laid out the absolute roster with which you're supposed to lose basketball games. Very little depth, no backup big, no general, like, there's no Tyus Jones on the back line of the second unit, no Markelle Fultz where you're like, oh, there's real NBA talent at the point guard spot. No offense to Davion Mitchell or whatever, but he's a third stringer at this point until he proves otherwise, right? I've come around a long way on Davion. We're not taking swipes at Davion or anything like that, okay? So don't accuse me of that shit. But right now, most teams would not see him as the definitive backup point guard. And if you want to go through the depth charts of every other team, tell me how many backup point guards he's better than. You have the Indiana Pacers that have 3 guards, 3 backup point guards. So there's 2 backup point guards that are better than him in TJ McConnell and Andrew Nembhard. So what I'm trying to say is, like, you're going from a roster. It's almost like you have 2 sides, right? You have Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster that are like, we want to tank. And then you have the team, and I'm not saying that they're not on the same page. I'm just saying from the perspective of roster building, you don't use your mid-level exception. You don't get a proper backup big, right? You go super young. You employ 4 rookies. This is not something that a team that wants to win does. But then on the coaching side, you do every single thing possible to win. You preach all the stuff that creates winning: defense, ball movement, commitment, togetherness. You build chemistry, which creates winning. So the Raptors are either going to fall ass backwards on their face because the talent is just not there, or they're going to win in spite of their lack of talent. Now, when you win in spite of your lack of talent, your talent gets reevaluated. And suddenly you start to look at the RJ Barretts and Scottie Barnes a little bit differently. You know, if I had told you in 2017 that a team led by Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet and a rookie and OG Anunoby. Imagine if I told you that in 2016, 2017, where those players were, that team would go to 48 wins. You would say, you're insane. That's the worst team in the league. But that's what happens. Development changes everything. So I think the Raptors have developed tremendously. I think RJ Barrett's been working all summer. I think the player we saw for Team Canada is legit. And if I told you that a fifth-year guy who was the number one ranked player, a rookie of the year and all-star 22, and a former Gatorade National Player of the Year in Grady Dick, and a high-volume three-point shooter and a legit starting center were on a playoff team, I think you'd be like, how would they not be a playoff team? So it's very interesting.
Every practice, to win every shoot around, to win and compete in every single game. So for us this year is everything is going to be about process and our growth.
RJ, how is your shoulder?
Right now, I mean, it feels better than it did 2 weeks ago. So, that's good.
No, that's insane. If you remove Yak, you are not the Wizards. You are at worst, the Hornets. Nobody is the Wizards.
Progression, I can shoot, work out a little bit more now. So, yeah.
Is it something where you still be hesitant to plow through a screen or any of that kind of stuff?
I guess it's something right now that's kind of like, just kind of, what Darko said. We're treating it like day by day because, sometimes, like, I'm feeling good. Yesterday didn't feel so good. Today I feel better than I did yesterday. So it's just, a work in progress.
I'm sure you want to be out there tomorrow. Is it tough to find that balance between like the competitor in you that wants to be out there probably yesterday versus like trying to be patient and cautious with it?
Yeah, I mean that was my goal. My goal is to play tomorrow. But if I go through tomorrow, don't feel right, then just gonna have to be what it is. So, like I said, we're treating it like it's day by day, just going off of how I feel, getting stronger, and also when I come back, being able to stay back and not have a setback is a huge thing. So, but yeah, like you said, I'm very competitive. I want to play all the time. So, yeah.
Now that it's home opener tomorrow, how does it feel to actually start the season as a Raptor?
Feels great. Feels great. Just it's always gonna feel better for me being from here. So I'm really excited to just see the crowd, see all the fans again, and introduce the team like that. Stuff like that will be cool. And the little video that we made that took us all day to make. Excited to see that on the jumbotron.
There seems to be a real closeness and camaraderie with this group. I imagine a lot of it has to do with you guys spending so much time together over the summer.
Yeah.
How does it compare to teams that you've been a part of in the past, and is that something that can translate on the court?
This is the most time I spent with the team before the season, for sure. I think it's funny because we were just sitting in the huddle. I think Quick was like, man, summer's over. And we're kind of like, man, yeah, you're right. Summer's over now, but it's like we've been together for a minute. Like, it's really, everything's about to start. So just at this point, we feel like, we've just been together so long, been having fun with it, getting to know each other. It doesn't feel like the beginning of the season, for us. So, yeah.
Okay, what do you like about this team?
Oh my God. You know what? So I read an article the other day that the virus that we all went through, or most of us caught and went through over the last 4 years, that is supposed to accelerate brain degeneration and cognitive decline by as much as 5 years. And I gotta say, I know it's so rude for me to say this, but this dude had like 8 brain cells, and I feel like if he caught it at some point, Like we're down to 2 at this point, right? What do you like about?
Good.
I like how hard we play. I mean, that's just if you play hard, you always have a chance to win. You know, we're young, we're tough, we're scrappy, but we also have a little bit of experience as well. So I think we're starting to put something together.
What would you say this team's identity is heading into this season? Sort of your brand of basketball.
Defense, just playing hard, outworking people.
I've never seen a team that had this much talent, that had the focus on defense and mantra of hard work and outworking everybody, that didn't make the playoffs. I've yet to see it. I've been covering the NBA for a while. I've been watching the NBA since I was 5 years old, right? We've seen a lot of them. Those tough ass New York teams in the 90s, which were my childhood, those teams they were physically bruising, okay? And they won a lot of games. They didn't win championship, they won a lot of games, okay? The Boston Celtics, 07, 08, that was a tough ass team. 08, 09, tough team. The Detroit Pistons, you look at that Detroit Pistons team, how did they win a championship? Wasn't talent, it was hard work, it was grit. You look at the grit and grind, Memphis Grizzlies, second round pick, Marc Gasol, cast off from the Portland Trailblazers and often, maligned, overweight, one-way player Zebo, and they massively overexceeded their expectations. Hubie Brown had that team playing together. Mike Miller, I remember that team, the grit and grind Grizzlies. Everyone fell in love with that team. You know what's interesting is when teams play hard, the audience and the fans can really fall in love. Y'all remember the 41-41 Raptors in 2022, 2023? That was one of the hardest teams I've ever seen in my life to cover, like to watch, to cover, just night in, night out, joyless experience completely. Could not stand that team. Sucks to say, I'm a Raptor fan, but couldn't stand that team. I love this team. And you know what's funny? There's all this media stuff coming out now about like, could this team be better? Could this team be better? And I'm just like looking at Pinsara basketball videos for the last 5 months, and I'm like, yeah, we were ahead of it again. We're always ahead of it.
Being scrappy and running, playing together.
Brady is getting more opportunity now with the starting.
Deem, I appreciate the optimism. We are definitely not 100% a playoff team. We're just way better than 25 or 26 wins. I don't know if we're going to be a playoff team. I don't know if we're going to be a play-in team. I don't know if we're going to be a tanking team. It will depend on a multitude of factors. What I'm trying to tell you is talent in the door right now. If we play funky lineups and we rest guys and Bruce Brown doesn't play until December and Kelly Olynyk is suddenly out for 3 months and Jakob Poeltl has a thumb injury that we're taking, yeah, we could be bad. There's a lot of freaking things. There's no, like, this is not like, we're not the Boston Celtics. We're not the Sixers. We're not the Knicks. We're not those teams, but we're also not trash. We're not, we're not some directionless franchise. We're not the Wizards. We're not the Pistons. Like, this is a team, in my opinion, that can, if they want to, be a playoff team for sure. The 100% playoff is I wouldn't go there, buddy. I definitely would not.
I know you had a chance to play with him a little bit last year, but now you're seeing him this year. Have you seen a sort of change or a difference in mindset from him?
Man, GD's like a completely different player from when I came mid-season till now. He's gotten so much better, and it's amazing to see, amazing to watch. GD's a guy that we talk to all the time. Making sure that he's good, because his success is going to be a huge part of how well we do. We really need him.
I know you and IQ have built up a lot of chemistry, but with you, IQ, and Scottie, the three of you guys, how do your games feel like complement each other and the work you guys put in the offseason?
Oh man, it's been good, like just us four being together. But I think Quick Scottie and GD getting to spend some time together now, and I got to spend some time just with GD in the preseason. So Quick and I are already gonna be like this on the court. So when it comes to just the other guys fit into that puzzle piece, is good for me.
Okay, we need to have a quick conversation. Huddle up for a second. Are you 4 years old? Are you 6 years old? Are you 2 years old? Are you brain dead? If you're talking about the news that I think you're talking about, honestly, go fuck yourself.
To just have time with Grady, for Quick to have time with Scottie and Grady now, and build their own thing. So now when I come back, we put it all together.
The Raptors have talked about the importance of on-ball defense, but also playing you in an off-ball role as sort of one of the top wing defenders.
Yeah.
How do you see your role defensively, and what would a successful defensive season look like?
Team! First team! Well, I see my role, I'm the do-it-all guy. Anything you need me to do, I do. You need me to guard the other team's best player, or you need me to handle the ball, shoot, be in the corner, cut, rebound, anything you need me to do. That's what I do. I think that's a talent that I was blessed with, and something that my dad taught me at a really young age, because when you are able to do that many things on the court, there's always a reason to keep you in the game.
Like you said, since he's been out quite a bit, he had to help sing rookies with Happy Birthday and that. How would you assess his singing voice?
I don't know why he's doing all that. It's a big vet. I don't know why he's doing all that.
And then how will it feel when Vince Carter calls your game with you as a Raptor now?
Oh yeah, no, that's gonna be cool. Especially like me, I was a part of his last game ever before he retired. So to see him make that shot, and then to now kind of been able to be around him more this summer and be around him more, throughout the years is really cool. I mean, he's a really special person.
Can RJ be a first-team all-defense defender?
RJ can be whatever he desires to be, man. Hell of a player we got right there.
I love the confidence. They're saying first team, because they're trying to channel RJ into this thing that he's not. And it's amazing because, look, I'm a director, and one of the things we do is we cast against type sometimes, right? So it's a misdirection. And I don't know what that has to do with this, but I just kept thinking about, what's the last thing that I would think of when I think of RJ Barrett? And it's first team all defense. The last thing I would think of when I think of RJ Barrett. I'd put him first team all NBA before I put him first team all defense. And so you think about that and you're like, holy shit. If he buys into that, how much better could he get? Could it be a Donovan Mitchell situation where we're looking at next year saying, RJ Barrett went from a non-defender to a really good defender. First team all NBA is insane. He's never gonna make first team all NBA. Immanuel Quickley can say whatever the fuck he wants. He's not making first team all NBA. I'm here to tell you that's not happening. Okay. But could he be a good defender is my question. And if the answer is he is buying into that role, and that's he's checked in this mentality. He's mentioned defense 7 times this summer that I've caught. So if he's bought into that, let's do it. Let's do it, man.
What would a successful defensive season look like from him?
Successful defensive season for RJ. I think it just comes down to mindset. He decides he's going to be a great defender. He's going to be a great defender. He has one of the best mindsets I've been around, especially for him being very young. I say him very young, I'm not still young, but for him coming in the league so young, he has one of the best mindsets, I've ever seen. So he can do anything he wants.
It seems like there's a real closeness and camaraderie with this group. I imagine a lot of that is just the amount of time that you spent together over the summer. How does that compare to teams that you've been a part of in the past, and how much do you think that sort of thing translates on the court?
I think this is definitely one of the close-knit groups I've been around, and I think it definitely translates on the court. Just the fact that you can trust someone on the floor when your team is, together off the floor a lot. You guys just can bond a lot, and it translates as far as defensively, trust, communication, being able to hold others accountable. Stop looking at me while I'm talking, bro, for real. I'm trying to lock in.
Okay, tell me. Okay, I know this is gonna make me sound like a sentimental goof, but tell me how much this reminds you of Kyle, DeMar, Norm, that vibe. This is it. This whole talking to the media, but talking to each other. It's every single person has been talking to somebody else while they've been talking to the media. And that shit used to happen all the time with Kyle and DeMar and those guys. And it's been missing for so long. And it's so nice to see it. It's so nice to see it back. Oh God. I'll say it again. I'm super proud of this community, man. I feel like we were a huge part of the change. And you know what? When I was a kid, my grandfather used to hammer home this idea of, when you look back on terrible things that have happened, and I'm not comparing this to wars and genocide and all that stuff. Like that's some really terrible stuff. He's like, you never want to be the type of person that has to lie about what side of the fence you stood on. When everybody else adjusts their morality, when everybody else adjusts their stance, when everybody adjusts their eyes, you don't want to have to be the person that is ashamed of what side you stood on. And if you don't want to be ashamed of what side you stood on, then don't be corrupt. Be morally upright and do the right thing, stand for the right stuff. And we stood on our business when it came to the chemistry of this team and the vibes of this team and the selfish culture of this team. We were first, we were ahead of it, we pushed for it, and we got our Toronto Raptors back, man. It feels so good. And I'm gonna tell you right now, if I wasn't myself, if I was just one of those like morally bankrupt friggin' media people who was just like trying to finesse favors and just, I would still feel happy, but I feel 10 times more happy being me in this situation because I know what side I stood on in this entire situation.
But stuff like that.
I was just asking RJ about the difference between Grady last year and this year, and the approach maybe he has. What have you noticed from last year to this year?
I think when you're coming from college to the NBA, it's a totally different game. And sometimes you can, not understand the game as much, but now you can start to see he's understanding a lot better, especially defensively. Obviously, everybody knows he can shoot it, he can score, he can finish at the rim. Now just trying to get the defensive part, which I think he's coming along great. And he also has a great mind as far as, asking questions and trying to learn and things like that. And that's what you need as a young player to get better in this league.
It looks like he's going to step into a starting role this year. Given, you, him, RJ, what kind of connection can you guys have on the court in terms of spacing the floor for guys like Scottie to operate?
What's your question?
In terms of the connection you and Grady could have as shooters, right, working together to space the floor for the rest of the team?
That's what the NBA is today, is just having guys that can score the ball, can shoot the ball, and having guys that can do the same thing on the other side, stop other teams from scoring the ball and shooting the ball. So the way he shoots it, we need that this year, especially with the guys that we have that can, get to the rim and make plays. We need that spacing.
What did it feel like winning that race? How's it going to feel?
It felt good.
What would you say this team's identity is heading into the season?
Tough, gritty. I think fans can expect that. The league can expect that. That will be one of the harder playing teams around the league for sure.
Like you just mentioned the shooting and spacing and how important that is in the NBA today. Do you have a number in mind in terms of like how many threes you want to get up a game? I know Darko was on you about that last year. Do you have?
I'm gonna just be aggressive, man. Let it fly. Trust my trainer, and I'm gonna just be really aggressive.
10, right? Go get 10.
I'm gonna be really aggressive.
I like that he's not necessarily pushing for a number, but he knows the number, and the number is absolutely 10. I love it. I love it, man. Like, you got the right people in the door. You got the right people in leadership positions on this team. There's nothing to complain about at this point. Feels great. I spent the last because we all need something to bitch about as fans, right? Like something to root against, right? We need that to some extent. Like sports are combative. You're rooting for the good guys and the bad guys, and for like the last 2 years, I've always felt like I was like tearing down players on this team, like Dennis Schroeder and Fred VanVleet and dudes like that, calling out guys on this team for their low efficiency basketball, their bad basketball IQ. And it almost felt very like self-destructive. So I'll tell you that the last couple of days, I've been trashing other teams and it's felt great. Just, shit posting the New York Knicks and shit posting the Philadelphia 76ers on Joel Embiid's, lack of commitment to playing on back-to-backs, and shit posting, the Knicks on Mikal Bridges' jumper and shit posting, the Nets. Feels good, man. It feels good. It feels good to rip another team other than the Toronto Raptors for a change. And I hope that the media, which they probably won't, can follow suit. I hope they can. Because, yeah. And again, I think a really big part of this channel is to expose the truth, not to sound all conspiratorial and, weird, but I think it's important to outline the truth. You know how often I have honed in on body language between players? You know who else hones in on body language of players? Every good coach in the fucking world. Every good coach. Coach K was huge on it. Coach Hurley over at UConn, huge. There's so many recruiters, so many scouts that are so big on body language. Why don't we talk about it like I'm just paying attention to things that nobody else in the world is thought to pay attention to? A lot of smart people pay attention to body language. It's important. It's super important. I'm gonna show you where, and again, it's really important for me, and I made an entire freaking video on it a long time ago. Let me make this a little bit small. And this was a video that I was referencing earlier, and this was this one, the investigated Scottie Barnes work ethic issues. I just need you to realize how quickly narratives change. Hang on, where were we here? Listen to this.
Help him score a single point, get a rebound, or
His body did not feel right. So Scottie goes down with the injury against listen
Miami.
to this. We all remember. And I want you to realize this is less than 2 years ago. And I want you to realize how absurd this shit sounds today with the benefit of hindsight. But notice, I was telling you it was fucking crazy back then. But
Remember, he comes up writhing in pain. He, tried to jump over someone's head.
His body did not feel right. His body did.
help him score a single.
Hold on here.
I don't have any clue. I've never met Scottie. I have no clue what he did this summer.
Bingo.
But I have an inkling that it wasn't what Pascal Siakam did. It's not an accident that those players that run the league are killing themselves in the offseason. And I know, Will, that I was able to see a little bit of what Pascal did this summer. I've witnessed other all-star level players and including worked with some in the summers. I can almost guarantee you that's not what Scottie Barnes was doing this summer. I think he was hooping a lot. That doesn't 5-on-5 in the summertime where no one's really guarding anybody. It just isn't the same. And so what we're seeing, I think, is a reflection of that lack of urgency in his off-season work, whatever it was that he was doing. And then the other thing I think is happening is I don't remember anyone complaining about Scottie in the first 3 weeks of the season.
No, not at all.
But it's a lot easier. You can be going 160 miles an hour in a Lamborghini if a professional driver is driving you.
The idea that was presented here was insane. Just pay attention to this part.
Well, that's what you had with Siakam and the way he was playing. You're talking about a guy that was legit MVP candidate.
A legit MVP candidate. Bro, take this dude's mic. Don't ever let him talk ever again. I lost my fucking mind when I heard this back then. And I told y'all it was not true, that there's no data, no eye test, nothing in the world that could support this. But you see the point here? When you think of Paolo as a superstar and you think of the Magic as an offensively challenged group of people that Paolo is just carrying, you change the context of who Paolo is. When you think of Scottie as a Siakam merchant and you really think and you present Siakam as an MVP candidate, then I look crazy saying you should build the whole thing around Scottie, right? But I wasn't crazy. And that's the point. You need to make up your mind for yourself. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to this dude. Don't listen to this douche. Don't listen to these people. What I'm saying is learn to read the game for yourself. Present yourself with a question. At any point in your life when you watch Pascal Siakam play basketball, did you think of him the same way you looked at LeBron? Has he ever looked like that for 1/4 of his life where you're like, oh, wow, that's like LeBron James shit out there. That's like Giannis shit. No, there's a classification difference. with Scottie. Has you ever seen a full game of him where you could really see it? Yeah, I could. That's the point. So, yes. No, I'm not, you dumbass. No, I'm not. Not putting down one person. You're being real about the people. You don't have to say one person is a merchant for the other person or that. It's not that serious. But to act like Paolo Banchero is suffering because his teammates are so terrible is insane. His teammates are incredible. His teammates are great. His teammates may be offensively challenged, but barely any more so than him. Acting like Jaylen Brown is carrying the Boston Celtics is nuts. They would win a championship without him. Replace him with Zach LaVine. Replace him with DeMar DeRozan. They'd still win a championship. They are carrying him. I love Jaylen Brown, the person. Jaylen Brown, the player, highly overrated. There is a qualification. There's a difference. And, the role of analytics, people say, what is the purpose of analytics? Blah, 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 blah. Analytics are there for you when you don't read the game. When you don't understand the game, when you can't see the game for yourself, you definitely need analytics to correct you. And every smart person who really understands the game does lean into analytics, or almost all of them do. And if they don't at this point, they should be fired. My point is context. If Siakam's an MVP candidate, then Scottie Barnes is a bum, right? Because you can't work off an MVP candidate. You can't win more than 41 games on an MVP candidate. But maybe he's not an MVP candidate. You need to change the variables. So right now, right, if Scottie Barnes is an MVP candidate, if he's that MVP type of player, which is like 8 boxes minus 10 boxes, if he's that type of player, then what he is a floor raiser. What does a floor raiser do? Offensively, they make offense more efficient, more easy. That's why they get paid the big bucks. Giannis makes offense easier. Kawhi made offense easier. Every great player, offensively and defensively, makes the job of other people easier. Rudy Gobert makes life easier defensively for Jaden McDaniels. That's why he gets paid the big bucks. The whole shit works on a string. So the buck stops with your top guys. So if you incorrectly assume that, let me chat, give me a very inefficient, overrated player in the NBA right now. Like I'm asking y'all, give me an overrated player. Who is an overrated player? And I'll just pick one. And let's build the narrative around that player. DeRozan is actually a great example. Cam Thomas, the best example. Cam Thomas, super low efficiency, terrible shots, barely makes anybody better, did not get an extension for good reason. Probably fancies himself as a max player. He is not even close. He's going to drive a hell of a lot of losing in Brooklyn this year, but he's also going to score a ton of points, and it's going to look nice sometimes, and it's going to look terrible sometimes. Here's the question. If you deem Cam Thomas to be an all-star, toiling away along with bums, then you're going to really miss the value of a Cam Johnson, a Nick Claxton, a Dennis Schroeder to some extent. You're going to think, oh, if only Cam Thomas could get some help, he'd be an all-star, he'd be an MVP, he'd be a scoring champion, he'd be Michael Jordan. But he's not that player. Jordan Poole is another example. Kyle Kuzma is another example. These guys are endless. There's like 100 of them in the NBA, which is super overrated. Great offense starts with pressure, rim pressure, shot pressure. It starts with space generation. It's not Gary Trent Jr. There were times when Gary Trent Jr. was scoring 20, 21 points. 22 points for there was a stretch where he almost scored 30 points per game for a little while. Do y'all remember that? And there were people who legitimately thought that Gary Trent Jr. was going to get a $25 to $30 million contract, and I literally lost it. Now, don't make me the bad guy because I'm the one who has to tell you that Gary Trent Jr. ain't signing a $25 to $30 million contract. Don't make me the asshole who has to tell you that. Learn for yourself. Get wise on it. This is not what is valued in the NBA. Movement shooting, like what Grady does, even if it results in 14 points per game, is going to get you $25 million if you're Grady Dick. More so than high volume, low efficiency scoring. In order for Gary Trent Jr. to earn a very big contract with his play style, given the fact that he is a non-defender, he would have to be like 61% true shooting or like 59% true shooting. And he is nowhere close to that. And GMs have caught up to this. GMs are not like building their offenses around the Jerry Stackhouses of the world, unless, of course, they are bad teams like the Orlando Magic that had a surprising amount of success last year and are built around great defenders. You look at the Orlando Magic right now. Who's driving winning on that team? You think Paolo is considerably better than Jalen Suggs? Franz Wagner? You think he's considerably better than Cole Anthony? You think he's considerably better than Wendell Carter? He's not. He's good. He's a good player. He's a good player. He would start on every single team in the league. Congratulations. I made a post the other day saying that Paolo, that basically that RJ Barrett, if the Orlando Magic traded for RJ Barrett, they wouldn't get worse. And then someone said to me, yeah, but if the Raptors traded for Paolo, they would get better. That could be true. Maybe. Sure. Paolo's a great rebounder. He gets to the line. Maybe he's a better second option to Scottie than RJ. Maybe. But man, don't act like it's a world of difference between RJ Barrett and Paolo. And if Paolo continues to be inefficient, and I have no idea what he's done this offseason, maybe he got a lot better. Maybe he's a better shooter. He comes out, shoots 40% from three. I don't know. But if RJ Barrett commits to defense, if he commits to the defensive end, then I will pick RJ Barrett over Paolo Banchero. Sire saying RJ Barrett was inefficient in the Knicks. Facts. What was the system? And was RJ Barrett inefficient on the Knicks? Because if you look at his numbers on the Knicks, tell me they're less efficient than Paolo Banchero. Look at Paolo's second year versus RJ's second year. RJ was a 40% three-point shooter in his second year. He's inefficient, though. You know what I mean? Like, yes, context matters. Situation matters. Winning matters. I'll tell you right now, if the Raptors go out and surprise people and win 44, 45 games, and I'm kind of expecting it at this point, but not betting on it, but expecting it, you will see a completely flipped perception of who Grady Dick is as a player, who Immanuel Quickley is as a player. Nobody thinks of Immanuel Quickley as a starter right now in the NBA. Most people think of him as like a glorified backup. You wait till he averages 22 points on a 46-win team, which he fully could this year. You wait till Scottie Barnes is the de facto best player, by far the best player on a team that wins 46 games and shatters expectations shatters the Vegas over-under by 15 wins. You wait. Now, I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen because there's a lot that can go wrong, and it's not cowardly for me to say that health plays a huge part into this, that Darko's rotations are going to play a huge part into this. The fact that the team wants to or doesn't want to be good is going to play a huge part into this. Yes, but you have a mid-level exception that you can easily use to bolster your bench. There are guys right now, Keita Bates Diop. Diop is a better player than Bruno Fernando. Shit, make the swap right now. I know he's 29 years old, but fuck, who cares? I can't wait for tomorrow. Paolo plays like LeBron light. Shit, fuck out of here, man. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. If you think, like I heard Paolo compared to KD yesterday, and I thought that was dumb. This is next level insanity. He's not LeBron. He's not close to LeBron. He couldn't tie LeBron's freaking jockstrap. Okay. If he gets better, if he hits that level, fine. But he ain't that player. Okay. You can listen to me now, or you can tell me I was right in 2 years. He's not that player. I told you all about Kay Cunningham 3 years ago. I told you about Pascal Siakam 2 years ago. I know a fraud when I see a fraud. He's not that good. He is at best Julius Randle. Julius Randle with a hype team. Okay. I know overrated when I see overrated. Okay. Paolo is like Randle with marginally better passing. Bro, if he could ever get as efficient as Julius Randle and as skilled as a scorer than Julius Randle, yeah, marginally better passing is accurate. But please understand, Julius Randle is no bum when it comes to passing. Jesus Christ. People get so hyped about a player and there's no critical examination. And when someone says, oh, this guy's a top 15 player, they just run with it. Now, I want to believe I have led the momentum on the Scottie Barnes hype train. And I feel a lot of people have picked up what I put down. And some people have even gone further. Shout outs to Alex Hoops with a great video on Scottie Barnes. Shout out to Flight White, who's from I think West Palm Beach, and he's been like hyping up Scottie as a top 20 player. Shout outs to Charles Barkley, despite his terrible ass list, and shout outs to this community, always putting Scottie up there. I'm going to tell you right now, if the Raptors come out and win 46, 47 wins, even if they win 42 wins, I think the conversation of is Scottie a top 20 player, top 15 player will start on a very wide Nadeem saying, Rob, what are your thoughts on Scottie starting at the power forward position? Personally, I don't really care. You know, I think of him as a guard. He is a guard. Just because he can defend, right? So Larry Brown used to say, you are what you defend. You are the position that you defend. And if he's defending power forward, I guess he's a power forward, right? And that's probably going to be a lot less taxing on his body, which is going to allow him to be much more effective offensively. And look, he doesn't forget how to defend. He's not going to forget how to guard the best matchup. And trust me, when you get into a deep playoff series and you got someone to put on Giannis, he's going to be the guy. He's going to have to do the Kawhi thing where he's going to he's going to be like, hey, RJ, nice to know you. Ochai, nice to know you. You guys can't handle this friggin' beast. It's my matchup. And he's going to have to do it. And when it comes down to, you know, a big game against Jason Tatum, he's going to have to be the one to stop him. But for now, you don't want to necessarily be putting him in that position. So if RJ Barrett can do a competent job and Grady can be a better team defender, this team is going to be a playoff team. Maybe I'm wrong, man. I'm open to it. Trust me, I'm not picking this team to make the playoffs. There's 8 teams I would put above them, but there's not 10 teams I would put above them in the East. You know, I think it's worth saying which teams would I definitively put above them. Let's just do a quick Eastern Conference breakdown before we get out of here at the 2-hour mark. Definitively above them. New York, yes. Yes. As many concerns as I have about the New York Knicks' lack of depth, Mikal Bridges' weirdo shot and his preseason percentages, I will put the Knicks above them. The Sixers, yeah, concerns. Embiid, concerns. You know, age, concerns. Depth, not so many concerns, but some concerns, you know, over depth. Embiid not playing back-to-backs. Paul George, the injury already. Tyrese Maxey injured. I believe, you know, he hurt his hand on that play by Jalen Suggs. So there are some questions there, right? Orlando Magic, I have very few questions about the Orlando Magic. Like, I think Orlando is going to be pretty damn good. It's just largely because I really believe in their defense, and I think KCP is a dream fit there. It's not because I think Paolo Banchero is LeBron light. So if the Magic go out and win 55 wins, which I think is very unlikely, but if they come out and win 50-plus wins, I know that the credit is going to go to the 22-point per game scorer, but it shouldn't. It shouldn't. It should go to him the way it went to Rip Hamilton in Detroit. Nobody thought of Rip Hamilton like Kobe Bryant. Nobody. People know what a role player is. Paolo's a role player. Paolo is like, at best, like the 35th best player in the league. If Lauri Markkanen was in Orlando, Orlando is way better. Way better. Lauri is a much better player than Paolo. So you're not gonna, I'm sorry. If he becomes it this year, fine. Cool. It's not unprecedented for a 22-year-old to get better. He probably could get better. I just don't, I haven't seen it so far. So I put the Sixers above. I put the Knicks above. I put the Celtics above. I put the Bucks above. I put the Magic above. Cavaliers, yes, I put the Cavaliers above. Could we sneak a win against them tomorrow? 100%. But I do put them above. Those are the 6 definitives that everybody has above them. After that, it's the Indiana Pacers, the Miami Heat, the Raptors, the Bulls, and the Hawks. Those are the rest. And then, of course, you can throw Charlotte in there, and then you can put Detroit, Washington, Brooklyn at the very bottom. So looking at the East from that perspective, who are we definitively better than in that group? Nobody. And that's the point that you have to come across and be okay with. You are not necessarily more talented than the Hawks. You are, in my opinion, more talented than the Hawks, but you're not that much more talented than the Hawks. Jalen Johnson, Zachary Risache, Clint Capella, Trae Young, they have a lot of depth. They have a lot of good young players. Kobe Buffkin could pop. I don't know. There's a lot. You know, do I think they're better than the Hawks? Yes. I think they're better than the Hawks, the Bulls, whatever. But don't diminish the fact that Zach LaVine is clearly a better player than Grady right now. Don't diminish the fact that Josh Giddey would probably start for you, that Patrick Williams would probably, you know, play high rotation minutes for you. There's a lot of talent across the league, and the East is no exception. However, that being said, yes, I would pick the Raptors to be like the 9th or 8th best team in this conference, and that means a play-in team. And if they tear it down, they can get as low as 12. And if they ramp it up, they can get as high as 5. That's my season preview. Let me know when this video goes up. what you feel about the Toronto Raptors, and I'll see you guys post game tomorrow. And I'll apologize in advance for some of the discombobulation during this chat. It took me a while to kind of flow into it. Yeah. All right. Talk to y'all later. Bye. Wait, super chats. Hang on. I raised Casatuni. Oh, I totally missed this. Thank you guys so much. And there were a couple of questions that I just want to get to before we get out of here. I really wanted to get out of here at the 2-hour mark, but there are a couple of questions. So first, Greg, Cass, thank you for trying this. I really appreciate the super chat tuning off. And this question by Crusader, which I starred, do you think we should tank or try for play-ins? I don't believe that a team this young should be preaching losing on purpose. I think you've done everything you can from a roster perspective to make sure you don't get any fake wins, right? You've done everything in your power to make sure that you don't have, some sort of veteran at the back, on the second line or in the starting lineup that's just like going to prop up wins for you. So at this point, if you're winning as one of the younger teams in the league, and I'm for it. So no, I don't believe in tanking when your team is this young. I understand if the writing is on the wall, tear it down, whatever. But again, the context of the season is very important. It's very important to realize that because you cannot shut down Scottie, and because Scottie is as good as he is, unfortunately, it's probably going to cost you any shot that you had at Cooper Flag. I would put money that Cooper Flag is not going to be a Toronto Raptor unless the Raptors have like the 10th or 9th record and they luck out like the way the Hawks did. So I don't see how tanking is going to help you in any way. And this final question from Andre Lee, do you think Kuminga would be a good fit with this core? Hell no. Talk to y'all later. Bye.